Greetings everyone, can everyone hear me? Please raise your hand if you can hear, perfect. So my name is Jürgen, I'm a software developer here at Odoo, and today we will talk about payroll, and more specifically payroll in Switzerland. So some of you might have this preconceived notion that payroll is a boring subject. What is payroll? Is it like computing taxes? Oh, that is really boring. But in fact, you would be dead wrong. Payroll is a very sexy subject. It is not just about computing taxes. It is about integrating with other parties, making declarations, and your whole payroll accounting process being correct, which is important to every CEO and every employee. You have this saying that every road leads to Rome, but in the HR world, in the HR map, every road leads to payroll. Whether it is about time off, if you take time off, this is going to be reported to payroll. If you recruit people, this means a new employee, this means new payslips to generate. Appraisals, people get raises or less money, depending on how they performed. Attendance, time management, like you record time for what purpose? Well, you record the time to transfer that to some kind of payment. But payroll can also be hard. I think, in my opinion, it is the hardest problem to solve in the ERP world, because you have complex laws for each country. Each country has its own payroll system. You have an infinite amount of edge cases. For example, in Belgium, you have laws that change all the time, and softwares have to kind of follow that. And the government doesn't really say, okay, in 1 year we'll make that change. Maybe they do the change instantly, and you have to follow it really fast about what's going on. And also, in a lot of countries, you don't really have a book that says, okay, here is the rules from A to Z, this is how you compute a payslip. That's not how it works in most countries. Payroll in Switzerland used to be hard. You had a lot of paper forms to do, manually write the salaries of your employees, do your declarations yourself. It was really a pain. It was different in each canton for source tax, for example. But SwissDec made payroll easy, okay, relatively easy. So what is SwissDec? SwissDec is an organization in Switzerland, and their job is really to create standards for us ERP makers, for insurers and public administrations. These standards mean that every party involved agrees on what is being transmitted, what is being received, and what those exchanges are. Their goal is to ensure security as well, with various cryptographic protocols to ensure that data is safe and safely transmitted. Another goal of them was primarily cost saving by streamlining most of the payroll accounting processes. And of course, quality insurance by creating those certification procedures that say that, okay, if this software is certified, they guarantee that they will lead to correct payslips and correct declarations. The last standard up to date is the OLM 5.0. It kind of looks like this, which looks like the plans to some nuclear bomb or something, kind of hard. Let's look at a more simplified view. You have on the left us, the software. Our job is to send data to a certain répartiteur, we call this in French. The job of this répartiteur is to send all the data to relevant institutions. So you have the AVS or CAF, sorry, I'm going to use the French term, sorry for the German folks. You have the insurances, you have the OFS, which is the Federal Statistics Institution, and you also have the Administration Fiscale, which handles taxes and all that stuff. What would OLM 5.0 look like in Odoo? What would it mean to have that in Odoo? Well, first it would mean that you could generate correct payslips. You could have a payroll engine that is validated against more than 500 different scenarios. It would mean that you could manage variable pay very easily, and that you could also manage after departure payments or corrections and all that stuff that is relevant in Switzerland. It would also mean that in one click, you could do your whole yearly salary declarations to the AVS, to the Caisse d'allocation familiale, to the LAA, LAC, IGM, LPP, all that stuff in one click. It would also mean that you could transmit what is called the EMA messages. What is an EMA message? This is, for example, the timeline of an employee. In January, he entered the company. This will trigger a message to all the relevant institutions saying that this employee entered the company. If, for example, in June, his salary changes, it will trigger new messages to relevant institutions. For example, for the LPP, his activity rate changed, his salary changed, and this would mean that he has new contributions to pay. Or, for example, if he's subject to source tax, if his marital status changes, if his residence changes, that would mean that it would lead to a new code, and this has to be transmitted to the relevant authorities as well. This is managed in Odoo by creating a whole historization process of your employee information. For example, here in March, this employee was in Luzerne, but he transferred to Bern the month after. This triggers a withdrawal from the previous source tax canton and an entry in the new one, which was triggered originally by a residence change. It would also mean that you can configure this very easily. So you're an HR person, it shouldn't be hard for you to configure, for example, source tax employees on the ERP. It would also mean that you would be able to make corrections because everybody makes mistakes. Maybe 2 months ago you said that this employee was not married, so he was single, which means tax scale A, but in fact he was married, but you didn't encode that properly. You can do retroactive corrections by saying this is the new tax code, correct all those payslips, and this would trigger a transmission to the source tax institution with all the new values, the preview values, and what should be the correct final outcome. It would also mean that you have an easy way to configure employees. What we've done here is like remove all the blocking stuff, all the required fields, because when you create an employee, you might not necessarily have all the informations at hand. So you might not know what is the first name of his wife, or what is his concubinage status. You would have to ask him and do some back and forth. So what we did is create this new warning system that tells you, okay, for source tax, you're missing this field, this field, this field, please fill them, or else you would not be able to do a transmission. This would also mean that you can generate your salary certificates directly from Odoo and send them to your employees. But now the question is, for when is that? Is that already in Odoo or not? Well, not yet. Because the SwissDex certification process is kind of a lengthy process that we've been going through for like almost a year now. Where are we at now? We passed the first phase, which consists in the transmission tests, which mean that SwissDex checks if we actually transmit data in a correct way, if the cryptographic protocols are okay, if everything is secure, and that was passed on 17 June. The second test, the second phase is next week, which SwissDex will open Odoo, and they will click every button, they will check every form, they will check every field, if everything is present and everything is configurable inside Odoo. And the last phase, which is planned for end of November, which they will do all the quality control of the transmitted data with various scenarios that they have provided to us. And they will check for every month for like a 2-year period if all this data is correctly computed and correctly sent. Before giving you the time for questions, I would like to make kind of a live demonstration of how fast you could set up an employee and go to a payslip. Let's take a simple example with our dear Anthony. I will fill the minimal information to get a correct payslip. So Anthony is Belgian. He speaks French. He is subject to source tax since he's not of Swiss nationality. He lives in Switzerland. He's from the Bern canton. He is single, so that would mean tax scale A, no children deduction, and we are ready. This is all the mandatory information relevant for transmission. We don't care about it right now, so we can simply go to Payroll, contracts, and we will make a new contract for Anthony. He started right now in October. He works in this location, which is in Bern. He has a standard monthly salary contract. Let's put him 20,000 francs, which is a nice amount. Here you can set up all his hours, his weekly hours, which are computed based on your work location. You could put different ones if you want. Let's set up his insurances. Does he have a special tax status? Is he retired, too young? I don't think so. Let's put the relevant AVS for this year. CAF, we don't care for now for the pay. He's A1. LAC, let's insure him. Let's put him a nice insurance here. Nice codes for the sickness insurance. Running contract. Let's do his payslip for October. I forgot to specify his gender because in Switzerland, insurances, they what you pay depends if you're a man or a woman. So let's put that here. And there you have it. All computed, hopefully correctly. So, was kind of fast to set up an employee, a contract, and to immediately generate a payslip. This took me 1 minute. Of course, you would have to do some pre-configurations of all your rates of AVS, all your LA solutions, the different rates for each solution. Okay, this is a fixed cost of time. You do it once when you start your company, and you don't have to do it anymore. The variable cost of time is setting up the employee and the contract, and as you saw, this is quite fast. So, if you have any questions, any features last minute that you want to add, I'm the developer in charge of this. You can come to me to ask that if it's really a big feature for Switzerland that I didn't think of, and that you would like to add. Il y a plein de questions.
All right, can you hear me well? Thanks a lot, Jürgen, for this fast but efficient talk. I'm sure a lot of people are quite happy to see all the work you have been putting into this localization. So the first question is, the demo was on version 17, wasn't it?
That was a good catch. So I don't know if I can openly talk about this, about which version will this be available on. I am doing my best to make this available in 17. So 17, 17.1, 17.4, 18, everything up to 17. This is my goal, and it will be possible with a very high probability. If it doesn't, 18 is 100% probability.
Okay, great news. Are hourly wages respected as well? Example, bridge to Odoo attendance app.
Right now, you would have to kind of put the hours manually, but the bridge to attendance is the last phase of development that we've planned. We'll try to make a bridge with attendance, maybe a bridge with timesheets as well, if we have time for that, but surely we will do a connection with attendance to manage the hours immediately inside. Since we added this new validation mechanism of overtime, maybe it could be useful for Switzerland. But this is something that I have planned, so yeah.
And as well with the time offs?
Time offs, we will see. We will see if we have time. But right now, time off doesn't really have an influence on pay slips.
All right, thank you. Can the BVG contributions be calculated based on the contract and the employee's age?
Okay, so BVG right now in the current version, without SwissDec, without certification, is a manual input. In the next version, what we will have is like the mandatory yearly transmission to the BVG LPP. You transmit this basis on January, and the LPP returns you the contributions for each employee. This works for fixed salaries, but okay, we know that we have like irregular employees. Maybe his BVG contributions change all the time. This is something that I discussed with a few partners. Maybe we will find a way to compute this automatically, but right now the plan is to input them yourself. I know it is hard, it is a pain, so we might figure something out for automatic calculation.
All right. When should I pass all my Swiss payroll on Odoo and on what versions?
If all goes well, all goes according to plan, if there's no unexpected outcomes, you should be able to start. I would advise you to start on the start of the fiscal year, so from Odoo 17, January 2025. That's, I think, the ideal time to start using it. But maybe configure it in December when we merge this, so that you know how it works, you know all the menus, you configure all your insurances, etc. So in January, you're ready to start, ready to transmit.
Okay, so that means you shouldn't take too many risks. Stop moto, and as long as we don't lose you, you should be okay.
Exactly.
Are all transmission data to tax authorities managed in employee record?
Regarding source tax, I think yes. I think all of the data is actually on the employee, and because we have this historization process where we have to store for each month what data was relevant at what time, and when you modify some data, you have to know from when this data is valid. So mostly all of this is managed on the employee profile, since this is not contract dependent. Like his marital status doesn't depend on his contract, so everything is on the employee itself.
Okay, very clear. Will this replace the SwissDec solution by BrainTech?
Hopefully not. Like BrainTech has its own solution, we have our solution. Maybe we can figure something out together. Maybe we can merge some stuff. Maybe we can, in the future, work together. But it's not our intention to replace BrainTech at all. We just had this in our plans for a long time, and this year was the time to start rolling it out. So, no comment on this.
Okay, great answer. Can corrections be made for previously incorrectly paid amounts, such as for daily sickness allowance?
Yes, you have the genre de salaire, the wage types, loonharten. You have a wage type for every specific case that you can input positively or negatively in the payslip, and everything will be computed according to that, so you can easily make corrections for the next month regarding that.
Okay, so you really prepared every case. So it will be hopefully ported to Odoo 17. How will the transmission work? Is it required to install certificates? Which technology is used?
So I think SwissDec, I don't know exactly how it works. This is like last minute preparations. Like for the transmission test, for example, they gave us a client certificate, like to replicate the fact that we are a fake company transmitting stuff. So we had to, I can show you, huh? This is really secret stuff I'm not supposed to show. So this is all the configuration for SwissDec. You input the endpoint URL, and you input the server certificate and the client certificate that is provided to you by some sort of authority. I'm not sure about where you get those, but this is how you transmit data.
All right.
Which technology is used? You kind of have to precise that for the transmission, like what is the protocol, or...
Okay, let's move on to the next one for now. Some rules depend on previous payslips.
Yes.
Is it possible to import
Yes.
previous salary information if moving to Odoo mid-year?
This is an issue that we faced with clients that moved to the recent version, the last version that we did. That we have currently Payroll Switzerland in 17. All the payslips worked. We still don't have the transmission. But some people moved to this version and said to us, okay, I'm generating payslips and they are not correct. Well, of course, if you didn't do the whole history from January, you will not have the correct cumulated amounts and your payslips will be wrong. But you will have some way of doing easy migrations if you come in the middle of the year for that, yes.
Thanks. Is there a documentation for the specific rules for end user?
Work in progress. I have to finish it first, then I'll make some videos and some documentation on how to use all that.
Also, maybe time for me to do my own placement. So we do have smart classes in which you have a 10 hours course with a payroll expert and where you can really see how to implement the localization. And we are always in contact with Jürgen. So if you have any specific question, we can really assist you to onboard you with this smart class. You can contact your partner manager to follow it. And on top of that, there is also new Odoo academies that we are launching in Switzerland. We already did one in Geneva. Jürgen is doing one in November in Lausanne. And there you really start the day with a new database. You configure all the insurances or your employees or your contracts, a bit like Jürgen did in 10 seconds, but we really go through all the configuration and with time off, everything else, so you can really understand throughout the day how to compute your payslip yourself, your annual reports, and everything else. So you can look for those who subscribe or to the smart class. All right.
Il y a encore une question.
There is again question,
Yes.
but okay.
Can KLE be handled as well? Well, KLE, for those who don't know, it's like you have ELM, which is the standard for salaries, and KLE is the standard for declaration of accidents, sickness of your employees with the relevant insurances. It is not planned for now, but we don't know what the future holds. Maybe we have a KLE certification. Not a lot of ERPs have that one. Maybe if we have a lot of requests for it, we'll start to get into it, but it is not planned for now, no.
All right. We talked about attendance tracking already. So what about the LPP amount calculated on the basis of the rate?
This I responded, I think, earlier.
You respond on that as well. Can I update tax at source rates with an upload of the files provided by the ESTV?
If you mean the différents barèmes or the tax rates itself, like, up. This is kind of manual. We will automate this. Are you talking about this, the one who asked the question? I don't know who it was.
I believe it's pretty. That's what's.
So you can already do that. Import them yourself for every canton or a specific canton. But this we will automate to kind of automatically fetch the rates periodically, so that you don't have to do all that stuff manually.
All right. Can it be used on premise, Odoo SH and Odoo.com?
All of them.
All of them.
All of them.
Wonderful. So that was the last question.
Yes.
I think that's very, very exciting news for all the partners and all the people working in Switzerland. Odoo really becomes an edge for Switzerland when you don't add any additional costs for all the payslips with the users. So again, thanks a lot for all your work, Jürgen, and for this talk.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.